In this video, I'm going to show you a simple way how to repair a leaking valve. Killer Stacks here, American Irrigator, trying to make you a better irrigator. This channel is all about irrigation installation and repair. Consider subscribing, that way you don't miss any tips. I've got a Rain Bird PEB valve here today. It's a good commercial valve, but I've had one that's been leaking for a while, and I've tried a couple different things, but now we're going to do what I've done on other videos, is we're going to replace the guts, the top, everything, and see if that's going to repair our leaking valve. Let me show you something. Now, we've got a set of valves here. One thing I love about this is I've got shut-off valves before each valve here. It makes it so much easier to do a repair when it's designed and installed this way. And in fact, I've got another video about that, and I'll link it in the description or shoot it up here in the corner. And that way you can go check that out and just kind of see what my thoughts are on that. But what I've got here, I'm going to turn this on. This valve, well, you see that water on my hand here? This valve is leaking right here around the solenoid or right below the top of this valve. But you can see that water, it's coming out of there. So I'm going to shut this back off. I've actually replaced this solenoid once before, and it had stopped leaking, but now it's leaking again. So I'm thinking that it wasn't the solenoid, but I'll show you. I'm going to show you this solenoid. Sometimes they've got these little gaskets right here. Sometimes those gaskets get worn out or they get cut, you know, from turning it on and off manually sometimes. Sometimes that does actually mess them up. But for some reason, this valve, it's either leaking right there or it's actually leaking up underneath here. But I actually replaced this and I thought it had worked, but I came back earlier today and this whole thing was full of water. And so I already pumped it out. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my new valve and I'm gonna do what I've done on a lot of things, and it ends up working really well. I'm gonna take the top of this valve off. It's got the new solenoid. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use the new diaphragm and everything in this new valve, and I'm gonna use it in the valve here in this valve box in the ground. And this is gonna save me from cutting all this out and replacing the entire valve. You can just replace the top, the guts, the diaphragm, everything inside of here without cutting any of this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this valve apart and get everything out of here that I need, and then we'll take the one apart in the valve box and then put all the new stuff in that old existing valve in the ground. One thing I like about these good commercial valves, these PEBs, is there's only 4 bolts and they've got nuts on top of them. Makes it real easy to take apart. So you can just take a regular old socket and ratchet. And I kind of get everything loose first. And then I'll take the ratchet off and I'll just use my hand on the extension. Now I always hold it down, hold that top down so it doesn't just fling open and lose the spring or mess anything up. So I'll hold it down with my thumb, and now I'll just loosen everything up. Make sure you don't lose any of these nuts here. Okay, now we're ready to take this apart. Kind of lightly take it up. See that spring? You don't want to lose that. Keep that in there together. Now you can see how those bolts are recessed and they're inside of that base. So that makes it real easy. And then you can just kind of lightly pull that diaphragm, and it goes around that where the solenoid goes in. Take that out. And then also this has that inside too. It's always good to take this part and use it since it's new, not messed up. I always like to replace that part too. Now let's take the one on the ground apart. Now I already have this ball valve shut off, so the water is shut off from right here to this valve. If I didn't have this, I'd need to go shut the water off first before I start messing with any of this. Like I said, I always just kind of take them loose, get them loose first. And then I'll take my ratchet off, and I'll just do the rest of it by hand. Now hold this top down to hold it all in there. Be careful not to drop those nuts down in the mud where you can't ever find them again. So a lot of times I'll just end up taking them off by hand. Now ready for that to come out of here. Take that new top off. Pull that diaphragm. It doesn't look bad. Just off an initial inspection, that doesn't look bad. And then I've got that insert piece. Get that off too. Now, we're gonna come back with the new one. Just so we've got new stuff, so let's use all the new stuff. Except for that base. Make sure that's in there good. We've got the new diaphragm, let's get that in there. And it could have been that this is somehow in here got messed up and that's why this valve was leaking. So I'm hoping with this new diaphragm, new top, everything's gonna work better. We got the new top, make sure the spring is there and not getting lost. And line it up and just go straight down on it. And hold that down. Why then, put your nuts back on. A lot of times what I'll do is put two on each side, or one on one side and one on the other. Tighten them down a little bit and that'll hold that down. And then I'll put the other two on there. Again, I'll just tighten it by hand with the extension. And then I'll come back with my ratchet. Go around one more time. Make sure everything's good. Now it's just basically a hand tight thing. You don't have to get it real tight, but it does need to be tight on there or it'll leak. Okay, now if this doesn't work and this keeps leaking, it maybe means that this base of this valve is defective or bad or whatever. And then at that point, we will have to cut everything out. Let's, I've got this valve, solenoid's turned open. So let's turn this on, let's shut it off. Go start out halfway. Turn that off. Look at that. No water. Valve shut off good. I don't feel any water in here now. Dry as a bone. Man, yes! This is great. This has actually been doing this for quite a while. And it worked! I'm so happy because this is a repair I've been needing to do for quite a while. Everything worked good, and so I'm actually kind of excited about this. But this is how to simply fix a leaking valve. Sometimes, if this doesn't work, you may have to end up cutting that entire valve out and starting over fresh. But a lot of times you can do this. You can replace the guts, the top. You've got everything new except for that base. And a lot of times, this will fix your problem. So it's really a good way to do it. Check out one of these playlists if you're looking for more irrigation installation tips or more irrigation repair tips.